In this video, I want to show you how to integrate ground overlay in your Android map app. And first, I want to introduce two files from the previous exercise. When you're doing this exercise, you can just download this zip file and extract in your computer. The first file is just a square image, the PNG. This is just a triangle irregular network data showing some contour elevation data of some mountain. And the second file, it's just a text file, map overlay.txt, and I just put in a note for the coordinate information, like for the edges. When I'm migrating this one to Android app, I have to create two corners. So I'm going to show you the process. Let me just open up in the text editor, and before I forget, let me just paste in the source code, and I'm just putting as a comment so I don't forget. The first step, I want to import the image file in the resource. So if you remember our area week, we had to create a raw folder. So let's just go into the folder, and I want to create raw folder because image is one of raw file. So here's my RES folder. I'm doing a right click here, create folder, raw, and I want to copy the file inside folder. So ID should be generated based on this file name, tin_map. Step number one, this is simply getting the image bitmap descriptor from the resource file. Bitmap descriptor, so I want to assign as object bitmap descriptor, and I want to get this bitmap descriptor from bitmap descriptor factory. Remember our factory model? So the factory model, you don't have to create new keyword. Better, you have to just use one method. Use from resource. You already imported as the raw file, and inside the argument, I want to just specify the ID of the file. So let's just use from resource, and just expand the raw folder. Make sure your team map is included. And at this point, you already have the reference to the team map.png. So just use r.raw. Remember, the resource represents the hierarchy of the folder. raw.teammap. So here is your ID to make a reference. And I'm going to use this bitmap descriptor later. So the steps to build the ground overlay is very similar to other overlay, such as polygon or circle or something like a marker. So basically, the first step, you're going to build options, then you're going to add options into the map. Ground overlay options. So this is my options object. Ground overlay options, you can specify a couple of parameters. Ground overlay options dot. The first of all, I want to use those 4 edges, and I want to specify the bounds. In order to create the bounds, you need to specify the bounds. So there is an option, the method called position from bounds. Position from bounds. And if you look at the argument, inside the argument, it's showing lat/lon bounds, and this is another object. Remember, we used to use lat/lon as object, but there is another object very similar to lat/lon, but it's bounds, lat/lon bounds, and this bounds takes 2 coordinates, and I'm going to show you the steps to add it. Position from bounds, and inside the argument, I just leave it blank because I'm going to create lat/lon bounds first here. Lat/lon bounds, and you can simply create a new lat/lon bounds, but inside argument, you can specify the two things. The first argument in the constructor is lat/lon southwest. Okay, so the southwest means you're gonna take the bottom and also the left. So that's one corner. The second corner is we need to take northeast. So the northeast, we take edges from the top and right. And the both takes lat/lon in the argument. Okay, so I'm going to do one more step back, lat/lon like this, south west. Okay, new lat/lon, and this lat/lon I want to supply the latitude and longitude. So southwest, the latitude first. So what's the latitude of the south? Bottom, right? So 45. And what's the longitude of the west? That's the left. Okay. And lat/lon northeast. So that's another corner. New lat/lon. And the northeast, I'm going to use the latitude top and the longitude, the east for the right edge. Okay. So now I constructed the 2 points, southwest and the northeast. I'm going to plug in 2 coordinates into the constructor of lat/lon bounds. Okay. Here you go. So now I constructed the lat/lon bounds object. Finally, I can plug in this object into this method, positioned from bounds. That's it. Coordinate setup is done. The rest of the part is just specifying the image file, ground overlay options dot image, and inside the argument, the bitmap descriptor. You need to specify this. So bitmap descriptor is you're getting from the resource. I'm just plug in here, and probably just for the visibility, you better specify the transparency. So transparency could be something like maybe 0.5 f as float. Then this should be done. So within a few lines, I would say like 5 or 6 lines, you already achieved that the ground overlay on Android app. So this is greatest feature, one of greatest feature when you bridge from the ArcGIS and the Android app if you want to migrate the data quickly overlay on top of your map. And finally, I want to add this ground overlay options into the map. Map, add ground overlay, and inside the argument, add ground overlay options. Let me hit the run and the compile. Here you go. Oh, I think I forgot to set the center of the map. I'm going back to the code. Let me just take one of the coordinates. I'm taking the southwest as the center. Probably you should put the real center. Just taking the middle value of those two, latitude and the longitude. But just for now, let me just put the southwest as the center. Here you go. So this is ground overlay on top of the base map. And you see I apply the transparency 0.5 so you can see the base map also.